When it comes to spiking, Stephen Hart defies the stereotype. It's not just women who are victims, and it's not a new problem. He was spiked nearly 2 decades ago. He's waived his anonymity as part of the campaign to highlight the problem.
Within what I think felt like minutes, I started to feel very drowsy, very incoherent. You know, confusion was the only way I could really describe how I felt. And not long after that, I blacked out. And when I woke up the next day, it was clear that I'd been raped.
You were given a blood test. What were the results of that?
So the blood test showed that I had Rohypnol in my blood.
It didn't just end there, though, did it?
I felt that the worst that could happen to me had happened, but when I went back 3 months later, I tested positive for HIV.
Rohypnol and GHB are thought to be the most common drugs used to spike drinks. More than 4,500 offences were reported to police in the 12 months since May last year. 2 years ago, Channel 4 News reported on another type of spiking, this time with needles. The victim made it home safely on that occasion.
So that's just the bruising. It's like a perfect circle, and right in the middle, the little pinprick. It looks like where a needle's been.
Police say there have been nearly 1,000 needle spiking offences. The Home Secretary joined officers on the streets of Windsor to launch new measures to target the problem. There'll be changes to the Criminal Justice Bill and the Offences Against the Person Act. Campaigners had wanted a new specific spiking offence to make the law simpler and statistics easier to collect.
We're updating the law to make it more relevant, to make it explicit to spiking, so that police officers can understand it and deploy it, so that people hear that it is completely unacceptable and we are cracking down on it.
There'll be more training for door staff at nightclubs and a public information campaign to raise awareness amongst young people. Long-time campaigner Dawn Dines has welcomed the measures, but says they don't go far enough.
I think the police also need training, to be honest with you. I think the police and the emergency services, they all need to be adequately trained and resourced to deal with these crimes, because at the moment we're not seeing hardly any convictions. I think it's less than 2% convictions.
No one was ever convicted of spiking and raping Stephen Hart. 17 years on, he's back at work as an actor with a one-man show planned for next year. But he says the trauma of the attack left him feeling suicidal at first.
It changed my life massively. Luckily, I was able to come through that. You know, luckily I was able to find a way of getting through that. You know, but some people don't, and that's the scary fact. You know, that some people don't recover from this.
Hundreds of thousands of young people will be out celebrating over Christmas. The government says these new measures are ultimately about keeping them safe.